What is up, my fellow golf ball addicts? Welcome back to the channel. I have another review for you today. We are covering the Wilson Boost. Let's dive right in. So thank you as always for being here. Super excited about this one. I'm really hoping this golf ball can boost my performance a little bit.
Boo, boo, boo.
Terrible golf ball puns aside, I am really excited because Wilson actually does have this two-piece value market style ball really on lock. We've done the Wilson Chaos this year. We've done the Wilson Smart Core. In the past, they've had the Wilson Zip. They've had the Wilson 50 Elite. They've had the Wilson Ultra 500, Tour Velocity. I mean, Wilson has so many two-piece value balls out there, and more times than not, they actually end up being not only really well-performing for their price point, but they end up being some of the best golf balls we've tested on the channel. So Wilson does a phenomenal job at this. These are golf balls you'd probably pass in Walmart and be like, yeah, $10 a dozen. You know what? Made in China. Really, I'm going to hit it once or twice. It's going to be done. There's a reason it's $10. And I don't blame you most of the time. But actually, we found that there's a lot of golf balls in that aisle that are really good. And this golf ball itself actually comes in at a really low price point of $9.97 for a dozen golf balls, which is actually even lower than their Wilson Chaos or their Smart Core. Those are $1 a golf ball, and you have to buy 2 dozen of them just to even get out the door with them. So the fact that this one's a 12 golf ball, normal 1 dozen box, and it's $10, that's around 80 to 85 cents a golf ball, and it kind of worries me because once you get in that point where you're spending under $1 a golf ball, they've got to make some changes somewhere. They've got to have a fault somewhere because you can't make a really well-crafted golf ball for that amount most of the time. I imagine durability might be an issue, or maybe a certain club. We don't know. We'll definitely test, but yeah, overall, really excited to test this golf ball. Wilson normally does a great job, so let's see if this is a replacement for the Zip or if it's just another one that is in a really crowded sea right now of golf balls. Let's start as always with the design of the golf ball. If you look at the logo here, I call this the Wilson Tennis logo. It's just the old style logo, and then it's got the number there. It looks really cheap. It looks really plasticky. It feels really cheap and plasticky. Looking at the dimple pattern, it's the same way. And then if you come around here on the side, I actually really like this alignment tool a lot. This is something Wilson started doing this year with a lot of their value balls. And I think it's very simplistic, but it's very effective. If I show this up here to the camera, you can clearly see that line. It really helps. But again, it's basic, and that's all I require. A lot of golf balls are still not even doing this, which is kind of the bare minimum, but the bare minimum works. I'm happy with the bare minimum. So there's another thing that really concerns me about this golf ball. And if you look down here, I'm going to try to show it on the camera here. But there's a line going around this golf ball, and you can tell where the two pieces were basically welded together. I've never seen that in person on a golf ball before. I've heard about it. I've had people tell me about it. But when you look at this, all the ones I got in the sleeve are like this. You can clearly see a line separating the two halves of golf ball that was put together, and that makes me pretty nervous. It makes me nervous for putting. It makes me nervous for just the durability of the ball in general. I don't know what to think about that. And the other thing is with the putting, the line doesn't even line up with your alignment tool. So now you've got one line going like this, and then this is the alignment tool line. So I wonder if that would affect putting. It very well could. I did not notice this at the time I did my putting test. So when I'm out there, keep that in mind. I never noticed that. But anyway, let's get out there to the pitching and putting green, and let's see how it did around there. Let's see what we're working with here. Okay, so the first thing I noticed is it actually does spin a decent amount for being a two-piece, $10 Walmart ball. But the other thing is that it felt really soft. I mean, a lot of bouncy ball effect, spring off the club, almost no sound. Yeah, I mean, almost no sound. Gets high up in the air. That's so interesting. I mean, it really is. It's so interesting how much spin I'm getting off that two-piece golf ball. It's not a ton, but I mean, it's definitely more than other two-piece golf balls I've tested. But I'm really loving this feel right now. As you guys still know, we are looking for a replacement for the Zip. This so far around the green is the closest I have felt to it. So that's a good sign. Let's go ahead and try again. Yeah, let's just definitely validate the parking here. I'm gonna try to get one to go left, see how much left spins on it. Okay, a little. Usually I don't get, there's some tour balls I can't even get to go left. So the fact that I can get this one's pretty cool. I'm gonna try opening the face a lot more. Wow, I mean, it just really, really stops. Phenomenal. Okay, up. Little high launch angle too. If you get it right and you catch it right, it does have a high launch angle. So maybe that's helping with the spin a little bit, but overall, I'm pretty impressed. All right, so Wilson Boost, of course, going to test with the PXG hybrid mallet style putter. I got to say that the alignment tool on this is actually a lot more vivid. That blue color really does stand out. I've seen green ones. I've seen, obviously, your black ones are going to stand out the most, but this blue is sharp and it has a good look. So I'm actually able to look down it and see my alignment very, very well. Let's go ahead and see how this feels. Not much sound, more of a deadening feel, but boy, it had a crisp, pure feel, especially for a two-piece golf ball. That's not very common. Love how that came off the putter. Let's go ahead and try again. There we go, beautiful. Yeah, I love that a lot. Roll. Give me a second on the roll. I want to hit this one just to give it a final score here, but the sound is great, the feel is great. I mean, if it ain't a 10 out of 10 on the roll, it's a 9.5 out of 10. It's really good. I don't test a lot of two-piece golf balls that perform this consistently. Usually they have too much chug effect where when they come off the putter face, they kind of spring off of it so much they kind of have to adjust. Well, that's not the case here. This has a very true roll from the beginning despite its soft feel. All right, now time for Old Betsy. A little bit more of a blade, traditional putter. Let's see if it's any different. I imagine it'll have a higher click. Let's see though. Yep, it does. It has a little higher of a click. Wasn't as big of a fan of the roll, but that could have been me. Could have been a little mishit. Let's go ahead and try again here. Oh yeah, roll was my fault, definitely. A little too much on that one, yep. A little too much on that one. Still has a great feel though. I'm just not as big a fan of the putter because it's louder. Okay, not bad. Yeah, I mean, overall, I definitely like it with the mallet style putter a little bit better. I love how it feels and comes off. This one, just because the type of putter it is, has a louder click, and I'm just moving away from that. I don't like that as much anymore. I like it just to have like a subtle one for feedback, but that mallet style was really phenomenal. This is easily a 9 out of 10 as well for a two-piece golf ball. Like I said, that's pretty cool. So as far as feel across all clubs with this golf ball, I actually am really impressed. Wilson does this really well. This is why the Zip was such a favorite for so many years, because it was really soft, squishy. It had a lot of bouncy ball effect, which is where, you hit it with the club and it just boing, springed off. I mean, there was very minimal effort and it just really, you confidence. You were like, you know what, as long as I hit this ball somewhere on that face, it's gonna rock it off there. That's exactly how this feels. It's really good. When you hit one square, it feels like it has a lot of power. Now, it's not like a V8 or anything like that. It's not, your Mustang or your Camaro or your Corvette motor, but it's a really good, well-made V6. When you hit it right in the middle, you're like, oh, okay, there's some power there for sure. And then even on mishits, nothing rattles your hands, nothing really agitates you. Mishitting it, first of all, the forgiveness is phenomenal. I'll probably touch on that a little bit later, throughout the performance testing. But once you mishit one, it does kind of pull you aside and say, hey man, that's a little bit of a mishit, but you're all right, I got you. Awesome. I love the feel of it. It's really a phenomenal feeling golf ball, especially considering the price point. So this is what's going to be really important. So we have a green test that isn't bad. We have, a design that isn't bad. How is the performance going to be with this golf ball? So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's start with the 50-yard pitch as always. It's going to be backspin and RPM, 6,845, which, I'm going to be real, that is low, but for a two-piece value golf ball, it's actually not bad at all. I just barely touched 7,000 with the Wilson Chaos. I actually only got 6,900 with the Strixon Divide for 24. And then also, if you look at like the ERC Soft, that was only at 7,000. The Super Soft was at 5,700, and I have some others listed here on this data sheet as well. Even the Wilson Profile, which I didn't mention earlier, but that's another golf ball that actually had lower. So 68.45 actually is pretty good for a really inexpensive golf ball. And there wasn't a lot of disparity either. On absolute crisp, pure hits with the 50-yard pitch, I'd get like 7,800, 7,500, even once I clipped 8,000. But on missed hits, I'd probably be in the low 6,000s, maybe high 5,000s. And that's actually not a lot of disparity. There's some golf balls, actually, surprising enough, the last review we just did, if I mishit it, it was like 1,600 RPM, which is lower than a driver. That was insane. But then if you hit it pure, it was like 8,500. And I'm like, oh my goodness, if you hit one, that's the difference between stopping on a dime and rolling to the back of the green and going on to the next tee box. Like, that was nuts. So I'm actually really impressed with that, to be honest. So let's dive into the 9-iron. Let's see if these numbers continued that. We have a smash factor of 1.35, which is really, really good. 146 on your distance, 146.7. Yeah, those are new records by far. That's ridiculous. That's basically what my 8 or 7-iron does with other golf balls. So that's insane. 108.4, obviously a new record there. 6,456, which again is a low spin number, but it's not terrible. It's actually well above a lot of other golf balls I get. You know, if you look at the Wilson Chaos, the Wilson Smart Core, the Vice Drive, excuse me, that was another one. It's right in line with a lot of those, and so that's actually just fine. And it did launch a little low at 20.4, but that seems to kind of be my sweet spot. I've been hitting around the 20s lately, so. And I would like to say that when I was testing the 9-iron, you know, most of the time the issue I have is I shoot 15 shots and I take away the 5 bad ones, or, you know, the 5 worst ones, and that way it kind of averages out to 10 decent shots. I actually had a lot of trouble with that because the forgiveness with the 9-iron was so incredible. You know, my average would be like, let's say 146 on pure hits, or, you know, close to pure hits, somewhere in there. But on miss hits, I was still getting 140. I mean, I was only losing 5 yards. And again, that's why I push forgiveness so much on the channel, because this is a golf ball that when you mishit it, it really forgives you a lot. There's not a lot of disparity in there in that distance. So when you combine the fact that I got, you know, a decent spin for this type of golf ball, combined with the distance numbers, that's pretty incredible. So that's off to a really, really good start. Let's dive into the 7 to see if we can keep it rolling. So 7-iron, we have our smash factor of 1.39, which is above average, awesome. 164.1, that's a huge gain in numbers. 166.6, that's a huge gain in distance as well. 116.6 isn't going to break a record, but it is darn good. And then looking at that spin, again, 5,310. Everything so far with the spin has been about 300 less than my average, but I test a lot of tour balls. I test a lot of 4-piece, 5-piece, 3-piece, you know, so the fact that a 2-piece, 80 cents a golf ball is coming up the ringer and at least hanging with them, hanging in the same room with them, that's pretty impressive. It really is. That launch angle was 15.3, which is really low. Again, even lower compared to what I've been doing recently. So that's a low launch. So it does seem to want to launch low, but it launches low and it goes far and it goes straight. So let's go ahead and dive into the 5 to see if we can continue it. 1.43 on your smash factor. Really, really good. 190.7, that's a gain of 13 yards. 194.7, that's a gain of 14 yards. 130 mile an hour ball speed, that is by far a new record, just jumps off the club. 123.6 is my average for ball speed, so I gained about 6.5 mile per hour. And then look at the spin, 4,730, which, yes, if you're still got your bingo card out, that is correct. It's still 300 less than my average, 300 to 400 less than my average. So it still's going to stop for you. It's still going to get up there on the green and hang on it. It's not going to go to the back or roll off. It may not be a tour level ball quality, you know, not your Pro V1 or not your, you know, your Vice Pro or anything like that. But it hangs with it. It's still there. It might be at the back of the roller coaster, but it's still on it. It's still there for the ride. Getting into the driver, we have a smash factor of 1.44, which is just slightly below average. So, you know, this might be the point where I'm starting to overcompress it. But when you look at the numbers, 232 on your carry distance, which is a gain of 10 yards from my average, 241.1, about a gain of 9 yards, 144.7, that's an awesome ball speed. I was swinging pretty hard with the driver. I'll talk about that just more in a second. 24.27 with your spin, which is right in line with mid-average, and it launched just slightly below mid, so, you know, low mid. Yeah, I mean, I was swinging pretty hard with the driver. I think I was at around 99 or 100 mile an hour, which is about 2-3 mile an hour more than my average, we'll say. But the thing is that this golf ball was just giving me confidence. I mean, that's how it goes. I talk about it all the time. When you have a golf ball that is softer and forgiving and it has a lot of bouncy ball effect to it, you start to get really confident and maybe even a little cocky. You start to really, you know what, I'm going to swing a little harder, you know, because I got this. You know, I got this. You know, boom, you hit another one. And then you're like, I got it again. Boom, and you hit another one. And that's how I was. By the time I got to the driver, I was feeling myself. And so I was putting a little extra on it, and I was just watching the ball sail, you know, on the little launch monitor thing, whatever, the simulation. And I was loving it. I was actually having fun testing the golf ball a lot, so I had no problem putting a little extra juice on it. So reality, the driver has really good numbers. They're not as insane as the other ones, but they're good. They're good compared to the swing speed, the relativity there. I'm really impressed across all clubs. Those are phenomenal numbers. There's records broken there. And you guys know just as well as anybody that I love when a golf ball like this performs well, but even I didn't see this coming. This is pretty incredible. Let's touch on the durability real quick before I give you my closing thoughts. The thing is that there has to, I said at the beginning of the video, there has to be a sacrifice somewhere, right? Because when you have a golf ball for 80 cents, a piece, it's, and the fact that we got such amazing numbers, the golf ball can't be good at everything, right? This golf ball looks brand new. I'm going to show you this golf ball. I gave it a little scrub. It did have some markings on it. But when you look at this golf ball, there's a couple little tiny nicks. There's one down here a little bit. It's a little scratched, but as far as the overall golf ball, now, would I have to toss this? Probably, just because there's that one little nick and I'd be worried about the putting at this point. But you just can't tell. You put all three of the golf balls from the sleeve together and you have to really examine them to see which one was the one I hit. That's incredible. That's considering the price point and considering how cheap it is and considering you can see the two pieces welded together, I never imagined this golf ball would have been so great. It's not a perfect 10 out of 10, but it's a 9 out of 10, and I would have bet the farm that it wasn't going to be. So I'm super impressed. I'm flabbergasted, you could say. Final thoughts. I'm not really sure what to think. This is crazy. The reality is this golf ball channel is all about finding golf balls that are less expensive, cheaper models for average Joes who just want to go out and have a good time. And we've found a lot of them. But I had no expectations of this. And don't get me wrong, some of the best golf balls we've tested on the channel I went into with zero expectation. But at $10 for a dozen at Walmart, I just didn't expect a lot. I really didn't. And the fact that this golf ball hangs up there with spin, broke records on distance. I promise you, whatever golf ball you're using, if you play sorry, let me re-say that. Barring you being a 105 mile an hour swinger who's playing tour golf balls and you're a scratch golfer, anything from the 10 handicap to the 40 handicap, if you're an average golfer, any golf ball you're using, this is more distance. I refuse to believe you're not getting more distance. I gained 10 yards a club, and that's 10 yards a club from like a really high average that I have. My record, this broke the record by 3 or 4 yards. You're going to gain distance, period. Now, is it going to work for you with the spin and not having urethane coating? That's up for you to decide. If you think that, there's no shot, you have to play with something that checks up more, that's your prerogative, I understand. But a lot of you have been wondering if there's a replacement for the Zip. This is the closest thing I found so far. I'm not saying it feels like the Zip. It's not quite as soft. It's not quite as squishy. But as far as getting record-breaking numbers, you're going to gain yards and distance. It feels phenomenal. The durability held up. Whether or not the golf ball is balanced or whether or not, this line does affect your putting, I'm not sure. But you know what? A lot of you really hate on me for this, but as long as you're not playing for money or you're not playing in a competitive match, you're just out there having fun or you're just out there whatever, putt with a different ball. Bring a Pro V1 along and putt with it, or bring a TP5 and putt with it. And if you think that's wrong, that's your prerogative. But I'm just saying, like, every other shot, you can get better at golf with this golf ball. It's long, it's straight, it's cheap. If you hit one in the woods, who cares? And what's even funnier is, normally I have my golf ball store on eBay. I have the link in the description if you ever want to go there and check that out. But normally what I do is I take the 3 sleeves and I put them on there so you guys can have a chance to get them for a cheaper price. That way you don't have to go buy the full dozen. Well, that doesn't really make sense. You got to pay $4 or $5 just for shipping on golf balls on eBay. Even if I sold you at cost, like nothing. If I made nothing from the transaction, you could just spend an extra $4 and go get a whole dozen of them from Walmart. So I'm not going to put them on my eBay store, but if you really are interested in trying this golf ball, it's worth the $10. It really is. And if you don't like them, give them away to your buddy or whatever. But I think if you're someone who's in that two-piece market and you've been playing a two-piece ball and you enjoy them, you got to give this a shot because it really could add some distance to your clubs. And the more distance you add to your clubs, the less likely you are to swing out of your shoes, because you know, hey, if I can just do a nice easy swing and get, 140, 150 out of my 9-iron or whatever, you're going to do that. Whereas if you play a tour ball and you know, oh, I got to hit this right in the center, because if I don't, it's going to punish me, then you start getting a little nervous, and then that's when you start missing. Man, forgiving, fun, inexpensive, long, straight. These are all words I love to hear in the golf ball industry, and they're also all words I would use to describe the Wilson Boost. So Wilson, phenomenal job, as usual. I don't know why I'm surprised anymore. They just always knock it out the park. But guys, as always, keep watching, keep saving, and keep learning. Until next time.